Guys, I saw this and I decided to like share this with you guys because this is actually an important, when I mean very, very important message. And the good part is we see people from different parts of the world trying to speak on behalf of Black Americans. And I'm beginning to wonder, wow, so Black Americans are not getting more attention that even Haitian, Hispanics, Mexican, like name it. They are here to speak on your behalf. They are here to stand for you. They are here to make sure that they are passing information out there so that a lot of people can literally understand who Black Americans are. But anyways, I leave it down to all single Black Americans here because I keep saying it. There is nobody that can literally tell you where you are from, who you are, than you, the Black Americans yourself. So I want you guys to watch this video and give me your honest review. What they are saying, is it correct, is it wrong? Like I said, my page here is for us to educate each other, so I will love it so much if you will go ahead, drop me a comment, do any of your research, drop it under the comment section so that we can literally learn from the comment section. Anyways, hi guys, welcome back again to my YouTube channel. It's Sonia and I'm back again with another mind-blowing video. How you guys doing? Hope you guys are fine. Hope you guys are good. If this is the first time tuning in, subscribe, like this video, drop me your comments, and lastly, do not forget to share for every other person to get this good news. And this is just for educational purpose, for disclaimers, not to come here defame, make anyone look on equal, right? With that being said, let's get right into this video and I'll be back with commentaries. Let's go watch, guys.
Black folks are not settlers, and the individual who mislabeled them as such cited decolonization is not a metaphor, an article that I've read multiple times during my graduate program. And I'm here to clear a few things up. The authors make it explicitly clear that black folks, the descendants of enslaved Africans, are not settlers. They were forcibly brought to these lands as chattel slaves, violently dislocated from their homeland, commodified, and positioned in this scheme of settler colonialism not as settlers, but as exploitative and punishable labor. Now, when we engage in these scholarly texts, it's really important to read them in their entirety before we cite them. Mislabeling black folks as settlers is harmful. It erases the profound violence of slavery, racial capitalism, and anti-blackness. It also causes harm to the conversations between black and native communities around solidarity and liberation. And so when you read these texts, do so with great care.
I wholeheartedly agree. I truly believe that African Americans have paved the way for all groups, even including the European groups that immigrated to America, Asians, Black Africans like myself. Like, we owe you so much. This country is definitely built on your backs. Much respect to the African Americans that made this country what it is for other minorities and other marginalized communities. You guys are always fighting for everyone. Absolutely. I will never argue anything against African Americans because the amount of respect I have for you guys are always fighting for everyone else, helping everyone else. And it's just incredible thing to see, and I truly appreciate that.
People of color can be both oppressed and settlers at the same time, depending on the context. With all of this, solidarity becomes complex. I mean, this challenges us to rethink what true decolonization and solidarity looks like.
Lock in, fuck niggas. We about to fact check this shit. First, if you fuck with me, make sure you hit that follow button. Let's get it. What the hell did they just say? So if you don't know, this creator basically stated that black people are settlers here in America. And this idea comes from the indigenous definition of settler, which is non-indigenous people benefiting from the indigenous land. And decolonization is to give back the land to the indigenous people. Now, when it comes to the indigenous revolution, I do believe indigenous people should have this conversation when it comes to their land. But to call black people settlers, hold the fuck up. Let's make this straight. Black people didn't choose to come to America. We were forced here in America. In fact, to say that black people are settlers here in America is very disingenuous. Because what we need to understand is that black people were slaves. They were actually considered property and not people. Settlers by definition are automatically going to be viewed as people, as humans. When black people came to America, we were not looked as humans. We were a failed attempt at domestication. Black people coming to America as enslaved African Americans is similar to foreign dogs coming to America and being domesticated. No way you would say that foreign dogs like German Shepherds coming to America is them settling. And when you boil everything together, you'd have to blame the exact settlement on white people. Everything that has to do with settlement originated and solely came from white people here in America. Now, while I do agree that black people and indigenous people need solidarity and the history of America for these two people are very complex, don't call black people settlers.
If, in fact, black people are not indigenous to this land, and I'm not talking about Africans who have came over here who were brought on slave ships. I'm talking about before that, the dark-skinned people of this land. Now, of course, people are going to say, oh, no, they look like, the Native Americans who we've learned about in our early history and foundation of America. But no, there were people here who were darker than that, okay? If black people are not indigenous to this land, why are there HBCU colleges predominantly in the South? Tulsa, Oklahoma was the epicenter for Black Wall Street. Mind you, if you follow history, you know that all the native and indigenous people were pushed into Oklahoma. And then they gave it an Indian reservation, Indian land. But black people weren't indigenous? I've never seen a government of people work so hard to decimate one specific group of people. And we're talking about COINTELPRO. We're talking about crack being introduced into the hoods and the ghettos. We're talking about the gang wars in the 90s, okay? Y'all stay trying to create the new thing that will help us eliminate ourselves. Whether it be promiscuity, drugs, alcohol, again, gang violence. And then you have to wonder, that's why you pit the Mexicans and the blacks together during the 90s so bad. When I was growing up in Southern California, gang wars between East LA and Compton, that was bad. And I think that is by design. Just like the motherfucking Bloods and Crips, by design. But we don't see the Native Americans out here, the ones who are upset that we're trying to lay any claim to being on this land and this land belonging to us as well. Y'all ain't trying to hear that. But at the same time, there's no historically Native American colleges. And then you have to wonder, the 5 civilized tribes who were recognized by the United Constitution, or whatever they were called at the time, were recognized. Why? Because basically you guys sold out your people to be deemed as civilized tribes, not the savages. So the white people at the time deemed your tribe, because the chief or person in charge at the time went along with the okie doke. So they said, okay, fine, y'all could be part of the fold. But don't sit up here and be like, black people can't be indigenous to this land, because the word black is a color, for one. It was a term that was described for people who were just of a darker skin color. And then you have to think about, too, when they were really trying to classify black and brown people into like where they would fall, and then it came to like the mixing with white, they had that whole drop of blood. If you had one drop of blood, you were considered black. Then there was the paper bag test to deem if you could be accepted into white culture, or if even white culture would accept you regardless of your color. Like, if you acted a certain way, then they might accept you. But it was all it was like a case by case basis. And so these people running around doing the census were just identifying people as they saw fit, or as the people who were running it saw fit. So the term native, the term indigenous, the term black, Negro, colored, all kind of got convoluted and mixed into one. So they couldn't really tell. They had to go based off of skin color, honestly. But I just find it funny that now all of a sudden people are getting mad because they're like, oh, black people are trying to claim that they're Native American, they're indigenous. And it's like, baby, you have to understand, you learned the same history that we did in public school. A lot of us did, okay? I do understand that, Native Americans have their tribes that they belong to, and they pass down history that way too. But also, a lot of history has been distorted, whitewashed, twisted, and to benefit the people who are running the show. But the more I see the spirit of black people, especially when we get together, Beach, it be strong as shit. They be sure. I just saw a video of this band, this HBCU band, and I'm playing, and it's like that is like the spirit of people, of us people, when we get together, is just something that is just totally unmatched. Totally unmatched. And you have to live it to honestly understand it. But we've been here, and I'm gonna continue to say it.
Black people are not indigenous to this land, so if you say that you don't care about Black immigrant struggle, that means you don't care about your own struggle. Who said that? If you're like me, the descendant of slaves, you might call yourself FBA, you are an immigrant. We are immigrants. Black people are immigrants in this country because we are not indigenous to this land. I'm gonna keep saying it. I'm gonna keep saying it.
What's going on? Y'all are going to jail! Period!
When I say literacy and comprehension are at an all-time low in America and it's a severe crisis, it's videos like this that prove to me that it's true. There's a single definition of what it means to be an immigrant in any nation. And by all definitions, Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, original descendants of slaves, descendants of those who were trafficked to America, could never and are never immigrants in this country. The current iteration of America, which is the only iteration of America, did not exist before Europeans came here and created a settler colony. America is a settler colony which trafficked individuals from Africa, brought them here, also killed off the original inhabitants and created a new nation. Those who were trafficked did not have a choice when they came to this nation. They were forcibly brought here, ergo making this their new home over the last half of millennia. America has been a nation that has become one of the richest nations in the world off the backs of these people that were trafficked here and who had no choice but to work for free. No one decided to come here on their own volition. The definition of an immigrant is someone who comes to live in a foreign country by their own volition, by their choice. America wasn't even a nation state of America when the settler colony of America was founded and was stolen from the indigenous people. For your definition of your understanding of what it means to be an immigrant is not only wrong, it's adding to the confusion of the already overcomplicated identity of what it means to be American from different places in the world. But if there's one thing for certain and two things for true, African Americans, Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, those who are descendants of slaves in this country, could never be immigrants in their own country.
Why is it that when people try to make a point, they always put Black people in the front, and they're not speaking from a Black experience because they're not Black, but they put Black people in the front just to make people aware, right? So let's be clear, real quick. Like, Black Americans are not settlers. We are not settlers. Not now, not ever. And if you ever hear this lie floating around, let me break it down, because I had to go back and really research and then figure out why people are saying this and try to put two and two together, right? So a settler is someone who chooses to come to this land, someone who benefits from the system built on indigenous land, like theft. That's not us. We did come prior to slavery and do a lot of trading, vice versa, and left, some stayed, but we were stolen. Our ancestors were kidnapped, chained, and dragged across the Atlantic during the transatlantic slave trade. That's not migration. That is freaking trauma that we still live through today. Passed down trauma. Now, some people are going to try to twist the conversation because I knew about this, so I wanted to know about this, so I'm going to add it in because some of y'all don't know this. Some of y'all didn't know that indigenous tribes also owned Black slaves. Yes, and that's the truth, and we shouldn't hide that, okay? The truth shall set us free. So some of the 5 tribes, like the Cherokee and the Choctaw, I say it wrong all the time, sorry, adopted slavery, aligned with the Confederacy, right? They were forced to do it and even fought to keep slavery alive. So yeah, they were forced to do this, okay? Still did it, but they were forced. So that's a historical fact. But guess what? That doesn't erase their sovereignty, right? And it does erase our right to tell the full story. So if you go tell the story, dig deep and look around and see what other parts they left out. And here's the part they never talk about. Like, long before the colonization of African people, they were already here. Like I said earlier, we traded with indigenous nations. We brought copper, textiles, and tools. And we built relationships based on respect, not conquest. Okay? We weren't settlers. We were explorers. We were refugees. We were survivors. Okay? So stop trying to lump Black Americans in with colonizers. Stop it. We weren't the ones who took land, who built empires, or who drew borders to separate people. We were forced to survive inside someone else's nightmare. I'm trying to calm down, y'all. Because Black Americans, again, are not settlers. We're the descendants of stolen people, and we are also the resistance. So don't erase us to clean up history. Say it with your full chest on what's really going on. If you go speak the truth, please do some research and then go back and find the truth. What do y'all think?
Trying to scare tactic Black people that if they don't stand in unison with Mexicans and immigrants in this deportation, that we're next. Next how? That's how, y'all be talking about, well, we don't know the history about. Y'all don't know the history. We are citizens of this country that were brought over here forcibly by our ancestors, brought over here forcibly centuries ago. Our blood is in this soil. There is no next. There's no deporting us. There's no rounding us up. Like, what are you talking about? We not in the same boat. This ain't the same thing. ICE ain't looking for us. You hear me? Thank you.
For Juneteenth, I need y'all to learn that Black Americans are not immigrants. You're not an immigrant when you are dragged across the globe against your will to be worked and bred and tortured by the very people who stole the land upon which you were dragged to. Okay? We didn't choose to vacation here. We didn't choose to flee here. We didn't choose any of this. That's the difference. A lot of y'all are immigrants, and God bless you for it, but that will never be Black Americans. We were forced to build up the places that a lot of your ancestors immigrated to, and to this day didn't get a stake in any of that. So before y'all run your mouths about Black Americans and our history in this country, make sure you're not spewing out garbage first. Because immigrants made this country what it is, but we are the building blocks, the very foundation. So unless you're Native American, you can't say nothing to me about that.
So now people are trying to say that Black Americans are immigrants. Black Americans are the only people in the U.S. besides Native Americans that are not considered immigrants. Europeans, Asians, Latinos all came here to the United States voluntarily, whereas Black Americans came here by force. In order to be considered an immigrant, you have to take action and moving to another country. Black Americans did not take action. We were forced. That's why we call ourselves foundational Black Americans, right next to Native Americans. Black Americans have been here in this country since the 1600s, a lot longer than a lot of white American families that you see today.
Black Americans are not immigrants. We all understand that, right? We were here before America became America. My ancestors were here. I'm like 13 generations American on both sides of my family. I am foundational to this country. My people fought in every single war. My blood is in this soil. Everything that makes America America is because of Black American people. We are America. Why then do immigrants keep trying to drag us into their story? We do not have an immigrant story. We have an American story. Okay? Listen to this Somali leader drag us into the immigrant situation.
But Trump based his order on a report whose author has made it clear that his goal is to denaturalize and deport as many Somali Americans as possible. This is not about crime. It's not about safety. This is about purging people like me from this country. Minnesota has always been a welcoming place for people fleeing a home country that is blasted by war, poverty, and hunger. Europeans in the 19th and 20th century, Black Americans from the South, Hmong and Vietnamese, Liberians and East Africans and Latin Americans. This embrace of new culture is one of our greatest strengths.
Do you see? Do you see how she listed us with people from other countries and said that we also were coming from another country, and also said that we were bringing a new culture? We are the culture of this country. You see what I'm talking about? This is what is making me like, are we being for real right now? Stop. All these immigrants are in trouble with this new administration. They want to drag Black Americans into this situation. Well, we don't have anything to do with this. We don't have a thing to do with this. Okay? Like, this is really starting to be, it's like I feel like I'm in a Twilight Zone right now. They obviously don't know. Or she did know. She said that Black Americans from the South. The South ain't another country? Like, are we, like, let's be so for real.
Black people truly have no allies, and solidarity is really out the window in my mind for everyone under the POC umbrella. But especially when it comes to black people, it appears that we are just the can everybody wants to kick around. A Native woman came online and said that black people are settlers. We are the settlers under the settler colonialism.
Black Americans' claim of being the original indigenous people of this land was actually somewhat predicted in this article. There are differences between being oppressed and being a settler. If people are unable to distinguish between the two, then they think Black Americans, but also other settler immigrants. It is a fact that we are all affected by colonization, but by saying that we are all colonized, the implication is that no one is a settler, which can ignore the fact that some people of color can still be settlers on indigenous land.
You may be thinking to yourself, how does that make any sense? Because a native definitely knows that African Americans are a product of enslaved people. But she's tying it to all those pretendians who saying that they're the original inhabitants of this land. They're the original Indians. They're the natives of this land, even though that's not all of us. So to take a claim that's made by a small percentage of black people in this country and then say that all black people are settlers is really crazy. Settler colonialism is a logic and structure using colonial rule to overtake an environment and replace it with your own people and replace the indigenous people, which has happened here. Black people did not settle in America by choice. Anybody that has settled around the world under the imperialistic guise that happened during the Great Scramble for Africa, for China, India, Australia, and Americas, that was Europeans. We did not settle here. We were forced here by slavery, a system of slavery, one of the biggest migration of human bodies in human history. And we then spent hundreds of years here under forced labor, while at the same time, I can hold two truths. At the same time, your ancestors were killed, were taken out by biological warfare, your land was stolen, there were land grabs, you were forced into settlements, you were forced into containment areas. That is true, but we didn't do that. We didn't take your land over. If anything, the Malian kingdom definitely visited America hundreds of years before Europe. Scandinavians visited the America hundreds of years before Columbus. But the French, the Dutch, the English, they stayed. The Spanish, they stayed. This conversation is crazy. I feel like every day there's always something new that's coming up about black Americans that people feel the need to use us to drive their point home. Two things can be true. This can be your land, you can be colonized, you can be displaced, and settlers took your land. I can be the product of colonialism by forced migration and slavery. Wow. Because the pretendians are coming online saying that they're the natives, you're saying that we all are settlers. I've heard it all. I've heard it all.
Anyways, welcome back, guys. And as usual, you guys know that there is no way I'll be holding my tab without doing my research properly as well. Okay, so but anyways, you guys have heard from each and every one of them. You know, a lot of people have literally tagged black Americans as settlers. A lot of people even tag black Americans as immigrants that came from only Africans alone, forgetting that they are Native Americans. Like, they are black Americans already living in America even before the enslavement, blah blah blah, before the Europeans, the colonizers, and so on and so forth. But these are things that whenever you try to remind people east, west, north, and south, they will literally keep arguing with you, and they will still keep telling you that black Americans are all from Africa. And I don't know where all of that is from. I've literally seen a video where a man was literally arguing with a black woman on a podcast, saying that black Americans are settlers, that black Americans are not, that there were no Native Americans, like there were no Native or indigenous black Americans staying in America. And of which, in most of my research that I've been able to carry it out, yes, there were people that were enslaved. Yes, there were people that came there and settled, but they were native, they were indigenous Black American. And that is why Black American came out with the fact of saying, we are not all African Americans. Stop identifying all of us as African Americans. But anyways, I'll go ahead to make this roll out so that you guys can literally listen and then let me know your
Black
honest
Americans
thoughts.
are primarily a people formed through forced migration, not settlers or indigenous peoples, though the full picture has layers. Let's break it down cleanly and honestly. Number one, are Black Americans settlers? No, not in the normal sense of settlers. Settlers choose to migrate, conquer land, and build permanent societies, e.g., European colonists. Black Americans' ancestors were forcibly transported to the Americas through the transatlantic slave trade. They arrived without rights, land, weapons, or sovereignty, and were legally treated as property. So while Black Americans helped build the United States, they were not settler colonizers. 2. Are Black Americans indigenous? Not indigenous in the strict legal or anthropological sense. Indigenous peoples are those whose ancestors lived on the land before European contact, e.g., Native American nations. Black Americans' ancestral homelands are in West and Central Africa, not pre-colonial North America. However, there's an important nuance. Black Americans have been in the US for 400 plus years. Their culture, language, music, foodways, and labor are native to the US. Many have deeper generational roots in America than most white Americans. So while not indigenous legally, Black Americans are often described as native-born people of the land through history and bloodshed, even if not indigenous nations. Number 3, are Black Americans immigrants? Historically, no. Legally, today, only some. Enslaved Africans were not immigrants because immigration requires consent. They did not arrive with citizenship, choice, or protection. Modern Black immigrants from Africa or the Caribbean are immigrants, but they are not the same historical group as descendants of US slavery. This is why many people reject calling all Black Americans immigrants. It erases slavery. 4. So what are Black Americans? Black Americans, especially descendants of US slavery, are best understood as, open quote, an American-born ethnic group created through enslavement, segregation, and survival within the United States. Close quote. They are not settlers, not indigenous nations, not voluntary immigrants, a foundational people of the US. Their labor built much of the economy, enriched the nation, was never compensated, was followed by laws designed to block wealth and power. Chapter 5. Why this question matters. This debate shows up in discussions about reparations, land ownership, immigration, healthcare and wealth gaps, political responsibility. How you classify Black Americans shapes who owes what to whom. In one clear sentence, Black Americans are a distinct American people formed through forced migration and centuries of exclusion, neither settlers nor indigenous, and not immigrants by choice, but foundational to the United States itself.
And why is it difficult that whenever Black Americans said that they are foundational Black Americans, a lot of people will not get it to their head and make it look like heaven wants to fall down? Why is it difficult for people to understand that these people were not only brought from just African, there are different levels to these things. And these people are not settlers. They didn't just come forcefully taking what does not belong to them. There were people, there were Black Americans already living in America. I don't know why this debate is very, very difficult for people to understand. But you that is watching me as a Black American, I want you to give me your honest opinion in the comment section. I want to hear directly from you because you are the only one that understand what you have literally been going through and how you have literally been processing all of this in subsequent years, right? So let me know your honest opinion in the comment section. Credit belongs to the original creators of every single clips and stitches we have in our today's episode. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Do what, subscribe, like this video, drop me your comment, and lastly, do not forget to share. And for disclaimers, this is just for educational purpose, so I stand a chance to be corrected. Feel free to correct me in the comment section. But anyways, I want to say a very big thank you to every single one of you liking my videos, dropping commentaries, sharing. I do not take you guys for granted. You guys are absolutely the best. And thank you so much for staying stick and hook me to the end of this video. And yes, guys, with that being said, with no further ado, I do like I always say in my videos. I'm going to be saying bye and I'll see you guys in my next one. For now, bye guys. I love you guys. Mwah.